In this session, I'd like to take you through some tips and tricks to use with Kibana and to use with the weather station dashboard. You can see here that what I've done, my name is Judy, and I've actually configured this template dashboard for my particular kit. That is why I have my name here in the search bar. And you can see that what is happening is that this ultraviolet light over time, it's not displaying any data. So that means that the visualization that is being pulled through to this dashboard isn't working. So what I'm going to do is that I'm actually going to delete this. So I just click on this little X at the top right-hand corner and I delete that. And now what I need to do is now I'm going to need to add another visualization. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to actually make put together a visualization. So if we go to visualize here on the left-hand side, second from the top, what we can do is you can see that there's hundreds of visualizations, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to build one for myself. So I'm going to click this plus sign over here for create new visualization. Here we go. And what I'd like to do is it's going to be UV light. So what in this case, I could do a line chart. It's going to be UV index. So maybe what I want to do is have a vertical bar chart. So let's click on vertical bar chart. And it asks me, do I want to do it from a new search or do I want to do it from a saved search? And what I want to do actually is I want to do it from a particular index. So the select index, I want to do it from the weather station index, which is the one that we're using for all of our weather stations. Now what it does is it just opens up this screen, and what it's giving me is it's just giving me a generic count of data points. So I'm going to search for my own kit over here, and you can see here this is just one number, which is the count. Over time, it's received over 33,000 data packets from my weather station, but I want to actually do a little bit more than that. So what I do here is I open up this little arrow here for y-axis, because we're going to start with the y-axis. And what I don't want a count of data packets. What I'm actually looking for here is I'm looking for an average reading over a particular period of time for my UV index. So the thing is, what happens is that your weather station kit collects data every 10 milliseconds or so. And so therefore, if you want to have a reading that's going to be accurate over a minute, you want to average those readings. So that is why we select average. And then what field are we going to be looking at? When we open this, you can see that there's just so many fields that we could be choosing from. Now, in terms of this particular XinaBox dashboard, what it is that it's separated into two types of instrumentation. GS, which stands for ground station, and SAT, short for satellite. So this data dashboard was originally developed for those people who were launching satellites or high altitude balloon missions. And what we are doing is our weather station is part of the ground station. So that is why I'm going to look at ground station, SL01, UV index. So here we go. I select that. And I'm just going to, I'm going to give it a custom label because I don't want it to give that code there. So I'm just going to say over here, UV index as my label. Right, now what I need to do is now I need to look at my x-axis. And on my x-axis, what I want to do is here, I want time, date and time. So we select that by saying date histogram. It's very important that you always select date histogram. And then what I'm going to put over here as my custom label is I'm going to put here date and time. Okay, and now what I do is I click play over here to apply the changes. And let's see what that produces. Here we go. What it's doing is it's now producing the UV index chart over that period of time that I'd selected, which was June the 11th to June the 16th, 2021. So what I can do as well here is now I need to save it. So I'm going to save it as a new visualization, and that is going to be Judy UNDP UV index. And the reason why I need to save it like this is because I need to find it again later when I add it to my dashboard. So here I click Save. There are some additional options that what I could do is I could look at. So if we click here on this tab called Options, we can see here that what I could do is that I could stack them. I don't particularly want them to be stacked. This would really be necessary as if I was using more than one data set, I didn't want them stacked. I would rather like them grouped. But in this case, since I've only got one data set, it doesn't really matter. The scale is linear. I could have it logarithmic. I could have the square root, but here, because this is a UV index, I actually want to have it as linear. And then what I could also do is that I could actually set the y-axis extents. So what I could do is that I could say, I'm only interested in UV index between 0 and 10, let's say. But in this case, what I'd prefer to do is that I'd like to scale it to the y-axis to the data bounds. In other words, what it is it's fluid and it's dynamic. So as the data changes, it always represents it in terms of the maximum and the minimum for that data set being observed. So that's what we do, is we just say scale y-axis to data bounds, and then I push play to apply those changes again. And there we are. So what I need to do is I need to remember to save. And I could save it as a new visualization if I wanted to, but I'm very happy just to save over that. So I'm going to save. Now what I can do is now I go back to my dashboard, and it's remembered which dashboard I'm on. And there it is. And what I want to do is now I want to add my visualization. So what I do is at the top here, I go Add Visualization, and I know it was called something about UNDP with Judy. Here we go, Judy UNDP UV index. I add it, I close this again, and then we can see what it's done is it's added it to the bottom here. I don't need that UV index showing, so I can just pull that in. And now I can take it and I can drag it up to where I wanted it. I can also see here that somebody has changed the template over here for this visualization. So what I'm going to do is that I can actually go in and edit that. So I'm going to edit that visualization. And I'm going to say, I want to have a look at what is this representing here. First of all, I want it going to my particular weather station. That is fine. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to save this as a new visualization. Save it as a new visualization. And I'm going to say, Judy UNDP light intensity over time. Save. If I go to options, I can see that it's already scaled to the data bounds, which I quite like. So that's absolutely fine. So what I can do is that I can go away from this. I can go back to my dashboard. What I do is that I delete this particular one that I didn't like. Then I add mine, add, and it had something to do with UNDP. And there we go, light intensity over time. We add that. Close that panel, and here it is. And now what I want to do is that I want to draw that up to the top. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. so that it'll fit. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. Just drag that in so that everything fits nicely. Drag that over a little bit. I can drag this one up. And just fiddle around a little bit so that I can get everything aligned and everything looking great. And yeah, so there we have slight changes to the dashboard. Let me pull that up there. I can fix this all a little bit later. What's very, very important is now I need to save this. And so what I do is that I save it. And in this particular case, I don't want to save it as a new dashboard. So I just click save. And there we go. What you can do is when it comes to creating visualizations, let's go back there to have a look at creating more visualizations. If we go to the main menu, let's click on add, just so that you can see there's a number of different visualizations you can create. An area chart. Here's the data table. In the template, we have a data table where you can create your own data table. Here's an enhanced tile map. I'll show you an example of that. Very, very interesting. If you have the GPS data, we can certainly do a tile map. And then, yeah, vertical, you can do a tag cloud, swim lanes, pie charts, etc. So play around with this. It's a lot of fun. And the data is always going to be saved on the MQTT server, so you're never going to break anything. So don't worry about that. Let's go and have a look. Let's have a look at something that does have a map. I certainly do know that if we search for a dashboard associated with the International Space Station, we do have a map of the data that was collected over time. And there you go. This is what it looks like. Let's zoom in a little bit so that we don't have North America twice. And so here it is, as the International Space Station was orbiting our planet, collecting data, and then because the GPS position was known, it's actually plotting it. This is extremely useful when you're doing high altitude balloon missions, because then you can actually track your payload with using the GPS, and then you can actually go and recover it. So I hope you enjoy playing around with Kibana.